So Kyrie has been back for 3 games. The first 2 were pretty okay. Last night against Philly, not so much. That's fine. It's a long season. But then he had some things to say that has been making the airwaves, basically saying that the Nets need more pieces, and he implied that it's more than simply just Kevin Durant. So, paraphrasing, he's basically like, we need to make roster improvements, which is not exactly the ideal message to send to your team. Now, he did mention a few dudes. I think the ones that he didn't mention were like Jared Allen and Joe Harris, which I'm sure he didn't mean that those guys shouldn't be on the team. It's just one of those things where you start naming names and you're not going to remember every single teammate you have, but it doesn't look good nonetheless, right? Now the thing is Kyrie wrong about any of the things he said? Potentially not. I mean, it's pretty tough to win a championship, and Kyrie and KD and a decent amount of dudes, solid players around them, even that might not be enough. You might need a third really good player. But you don't say that to the media. You say it to your owner or your GM, and you trust that it doesn't go anywhere else. Now, I do want to back up Kyrie a little bit, because he doesn't have the luxury of thinking about what he's going to say and then undoing it and then redoing it when it doesn't sound good. Like, I have the luxury of doing that with this YouTube thing. I can't tell you how many times during a commentary I'll say something and then I'll listen back to it and I'll be like, well, that was stupid, and then I just redo it. You can't really do that when there's a microphone in your face and you're a star basketball player and everything. So, for all I know, maybe he just simply wanted to put, once Kevin comes back, we're going to be great. But it still came out the way it did. And given that this is Kyrie we're talking about, and there's questions about how good of a leader he can be and all that, it's not great. It's not good, is the one way to put it. The other thing is, too, even if he may have just wanted to say one thing but ended up saying some that went kind of left for him, it is a little weird that he wouldn't just simply be like, oh yeah, the group we have is really good and we're going to go as far as we possibly can go with this team and we're all awesome and all that, even if you don't genuinely believe that. I mean, I'm sure if you gave every single NBA player a lie detector test or some truth serum or something, then you'd find out the things that they feel about the team that we all probably feel about any given team that isn't a title contender or whatever. But that doesn't mean you don't put that energy out into the world, because now Joe Harris, Jared Allen, Karis LeVert, like all these guys have to hear what Kyrie said, and they basically have to hear, you know what, we're not actually good enough to go however far we'd want to go this season. And the thing is, like, from a talent standpoint, assuming the team is healthy and they have enough time to gel together, who says they couldn't go on some playoff run? I mean, at this point, it would be, the odds would be against them, but it doesn't mean it's impossible. I mean, we saw Miami win an insane amount of games in the second half of a season however long ago to get back to 41 wins, and they would have been kind of scary in the playoffs. The Jazz go on some crazy second half run every season. Portland before this season would typically do that, and these are teams that weren't title contenders, So who's to say that a Brooklyn Nets team with Kyrie Irving and Spencer Dinwiddie and Karis LeVert, Joe Harris, and all these dudes, see, I just did it there. I didn't name the whole team. But who's to say they couldn't go on some crazy run? And by Kyrie putting this out into the world, does it mean that they can't still do good things the rest of the season? No, but it's like, just why put that negativity out there, Because all these guys heard him say that, and they can interpret it however they want, and they can do what I'm kind of doing, which is saying, well, yeah, but he probably really just meant this, but it's still going to stick with you nonetheless. And this is a guy that you got to be in the huddle with game after game. You got to be on plane rides with this dude and locker rooms and film sessions with this guy who is thinking this, And it's also the same guy who just missed a whole bunch of games, on top of is the leading shot taker and everything. Leading guy in touches, possession per game, and if that's even a stat. So, yeah. And, I mean, this was something that we talked about a bit going into this. It's the culture clash of Kyrie and Durant versus what the Nets have been building up for a while now. And this is just part of that process. I mean, if Kevin Durant comes back when, it's not an if, he will be back next season. So when he's back, I mean, is everything just going to be totally fine, or are there constantly going to be just things that are said? I mean, I think we would all be pretty surprised at this point if by the end of Kyrie and Kevin Durant's contracts, if they're both still on the Nets, that it's been completely smooth sailing. Now, I don't want to act like KD and Kyrie are the only dudes who are ever in the news for various things. I mean, we just had a James Harden-Chris Paul situation where Chris Paul was traded. LeBron has been involved in these types of things forever. I mean, LeBron became the master at passive-aggressive things that we knew were aimed at teammates, but he did it in just a way to where you couldn't just flat out be like, so what does this tweet mean, LeBron? He'll just be like, I don't know, dude. In his own LeBron way, of course. I mean, Kobe had his moments. I mean, of course, Kobe and Shaq was a soap opera for years. And even after that, we had that one off season where Kobe was like, I want to be traded, I don't want to be traded. Like, star players are just weird, okay? It's the way it is. And Kyrie and KD may manage to be weirder than the normal star player weird. And of course, they're going to be together, so it's going to be something. Maybe DeAndre Jordan will just be the guy to rein it all in. As far as any other various interesting things, are we going to see pushback from Nets players at some point? Is Spencer Dinwiddie just going to ask to get traded? That's me putting the super tinfoil hat on. But if it came to that point, I mean, Dinwiddie's on an extremely affordable contract. The dude's making $12 million 2 years from now. So that's kind of a mini doomsday scenario. The super doomsday scenario is KD and Kyrie hate each other. Or KD's 70% of what he once was. But then you got the really good scenario, which is the four-man thing of KD, Kyrie, Dinwiddie, and Karras is basically impossible to defend because all four dudes can play with and without the ball, and KD may be the best player in the league if he's back to 100%. So the Nets will be very interesting over the next however many seasons.